Welcome back, brothers, to the 801st Legion podcast, a Star Wars Legion podcast. We're hot off LVO, biggest tournament of the past 2 years. We got hot takes, we got new items to talk about, and of course, lots of fun, like always. So without further ado, punch it, Josh.
Hello there.
You must unlearn
Dark
what you
side of
have
the
learned.
Force is a pathway to many abilities.
Red,
some
green, or
considered
red, green, red.
I know.
Gosh, will do!
Sorry about the mess.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
General Kenobi.
Let's rearrange some architectures.
Is it possible to learn this power?
I thank you for your hospitality.
Twice the pride, double the fall.
Impressive.
I'll show you the dark side.
We're back. How does democracy die? With a whimper. Not thunderous applause.
I have not seen that movie in so long. I'm like, wait, is that the actual quote? I'm like, yeah, it is.
With thunderous applause, yeah.
I've been watching too much Disney Star Wars. Like, I need to go back and watch the original stuff because, oh my gosh, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
You know, I'm not the biggest sequel trilogy fan, but outside of those three movies, I've loved every single thing Disney's done with Star Wars.
Yep.
I will admit that.
Yeah. Sequel trilogy aside. Yeah. There's a lot. Man, if you guys could see the faces that we just made when just disappointment and resignation. Anyway, but we all know that because we're all Star Wars fans. So what are we talking about tonight?
Well, we are right off of the tail of LVO, so it's about a week ago, just over a week. We're recording on Monday, so it's
11 days.
8 days, I think.
Oh yeah, no, because it ended
on Sunday.
Yeah.
And today was also game day for us to play. So a lot of considerations to think about with LVO. The discussions have been mixed, I would say. Like online and in the community, there's been a lot of hot takes, but also a lot of like cold takes. A lot of things I disagree with, a lot of things I agree with. But we want to kind of just talk about the meta and kind of just what we saw at LVO because, Josh, what's happening in May?
We're having a big tournament. Man, we're excited about this. This is going to be our May the 4th-ish tournament, just because that lands on a Wednesday this year. And
it was a weird
that's day. Hard to get a tournament and be like, hey, boss, I'm not feeling good. I'm good to come in tomorrow, though.
It seems that 32 different people just took PTO today for no good reason.
Yeah. So
what's going on?
May 7th, we're going to be having our biggest tournament ever. We're going to have prizes like crazy. We are going to do so much stuff. We're going to try and get on the map with the Legion community. Be like, yo, Salt Lake and Utah, we are here.
We exist.
We are good.
We want to show that we exist and that we're there. And we're opening this invite up to anybody who listens and wants to come. We haven't taken registrations quite yet for it. We're still working on some of the details. But if you're listening, just know it'll be that time. Come play. Josh, you're taking a big hand in this. What details should we know about this event?
So right now, right off the bat, it's May 7th. It's going to be 4 rounds of Legion at 2.5 hours each round. So it's going to be a long day. Like, it's going to be a hard-fought day. Other than that, I mean, we are going to be doing an MOV style. We're not doing strength of schedule. So MOV, 4 rounds. We're starting pretty early, and we're still hammering out a lot of details because we also have another event before that.
Dude, I'm actually excited about both events. This next one coming up is just our day of play. That's going to be in February 29th, I believe.
6th.
Or 26th. I always get 6 and 9. Don't laugh too hard.
Well, the 29th doesn't exist this year.
No, not a leap year.
It's like, it's not the Summer Olympics.
That's true. Speaking of which, that's going on right now, too.
That's the winter.
Yeah, I haven't watched much of it.
I haven't either.
I feel like it's because the Summer Olympics just barely happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of, not that I'm Olympics out, but I just don't care as much.
Although hockey has been fun to watch.
Yeah, I saw. I don't want to get controversial, but there was like that speed skating thing today.
Oh, I didn't even see it. Anyway, back to Legion.
Yeah, back to Legion. But it's a day of play. This is going to be a lot more of a casual day, so we're not going to be having, like, I guess, organized clocks running. If you play a game, we'll probably still clock you just so people can get as many games in. But it's all about raffling because we have Skirmish League kits to give away. And much more, actually.
We have so much more.
So much.
Well, and the big problem was we only got one Skirmish League kit. And our group here at Demolition Games is too big for one kit. So we're like, fine, we'll just raffle it off instead, make everyone happy, and throw in a bunch of other prizes. But yeah, there's no start time. There is technically an end time because we are going to raffle at some point. But it's a come whenever, play whenever, have fun, bring your painting stuff. Like, it's hobby, it's social, it's gaming. There's a whole bunch of different ways to win tickets. We've got a bunch of cool prizes. We got our skirmish kit. We've got we're doing another alt art for the basic command cards.
I am so excited for these.
I'm painting up some units. We're giving away units from the store.
Like inbox stuff.
Yeah, we're giving away gift cards. And there's a couple other prizes that I know we've talked about that we're probably still going to do. I just can't remember them off the top of my head.
Basically, this will be a fun one. And it always is. The day of plays always draw a lot of people, and they're a ton of fun. I really enjoy them.
Super casual.
But yeah, so that's it for, I guess, like housekeeping and stuff. I know Josh and I are going to be trying to do our best to attend Adepticon this year as well, which is kind of shaping out to be bigger than LVO. Have you seen the list? It's like 104 people today registered.
Oh, we got to get signed up then.
We got to get all our stuff
caps
quick.
at 120 or something.
Yeah, I think it's like 128, 130 or something. But yeah, there's
Got to buy those tickets.
yeah, paydays this week, so
Hold on a little bit longer. Just a little,
Yeah,
almost there. That's what the quote is. See, it's been a while
almost
since I've
there. That's the original as well.
That's what I was like. I gotta watch those.
But
again.
yeah, super excited about that. I gotta tell you, LVO really got me hyped for it because I missed the LVO two years ago just because work schedule, I couldn't go, and with a lot of the other stuff.
Then there was no
let's
other
be
stuff.
Real. There was no other stuff. And so since then, there haven't really been big tournaments. LVO was great because it was the first big one, but
Because it was last year. There was like Nova and the Texas Open. No, it wasn't Texas Open.
the
it was
Lone Star
Lone
Open.
Star Open.
Yeah.
I was like, it was in Texas. I just can't remember the name of the event.
Well, what I love about those events is they kind of got sandwiched between those two waves of COVID. Like right coming off of Delta and the original, and right before Omicron hit, and so they kind of fit in that perfect little gap.
Which we were totally happy about.
Mm-hmm. Oh
But-
yeah.
And now, hopefully, with Adepticon, COVID will go away. Well, not go away. Anyway, we're going to Adepticon. We're super excited about it.
Oh yeah, all vaxxed up and ready to go. It's gonna be a ton of fun. I'm not sure I'm gonna play yet, but that's kind of why we're talking about this, is because with all the events coming up, we're gonna be discussing what happened at LVO, what we think, and meta considerations for where you guys are playing and what you're seeing. I guess Josh, you get us started, man. What do you have many thoughts of an LVO? You and I have talked a ton about it.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
So I think, especially looking at the numbers for LVO, I think right now Legion is in such a good spot. Like, I don't think it's ever been better than right now. Just because of seeing the numbers, seeing the overall, how things shook up. It was almost a 25% split amongst everything. Up to certain points, but you're like, well, that's a tournament, that's process of elimination. But that's fine. Like, nobody dominated. Like, droids definitely did better than everyone in the overall, but nobody, like, single-handedly dominated. It wasn't like token-sharing clones. Back when that was nonsense.
Completely agree. I think Mboeha from Team Relentless in his video put it best, and Josh actually shared this with me, and I liked what he said. He said that, like, even though the numbers are good at indicating things, because there was only 90 people, that's not a big enough of a sample size to push towards stuff, but the fact that the numbers came out rather even was a good thing to say. And I think the people that made it to the top day, even though it's relevant, because it is, they still made top 6 and there were still 4 droids there. I think it's better to look at like the numbers for day 2 myself personally. I think that's a better way to see how did things shake out. Because after that you just get to like player considerations on like who played what table, what list, what aren't. There's different variables. And I think you don't have as much of a sample size.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't a big enough sample size to be like, this is definitively how the game is right now. But it was also like, we can make some pretty good guesses.
Yeah.
Because, like, So clones with the last rules update, like they got hit hard. Everyone agrees clones just got destroyed. But they still had a 20% showing overall of all the lists at LVO.
Clones didn't, but yeah, I kid. Gar
Yeah,
definitely
you're not
did.
wrong. Yeah, also the fact that there were 0 Captain Rexes.
That's
Nothing.
Oh, my boy.
Like, the only time Rex has like just not been present since he's been released.
Since he's been released, like, dude, that is something to talk about there because he's kind of he's not even kind of, he is the core of clone-based lists. We just don't have anybody else to do anything with it. I think there's a couple things that need to get rolled back. The big one, I'm not sure if it should or not, is critical on the arcs. I go back and forth on that because their points are way too high for what they do because they just feel like what shore troopers should be, but they don't have any of the good keywords anymore outside of tactical, which is still good. But even shore troopers, for the points they get when they're using a heavy, have critical and range 4 and a lot of dice. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like arc troopers just feel like fancy core troopers, and it's weird.
Because they are.
They are.
Because they're still red saves. They fail half the time. And especially now that you can only share 1 surge, they don't have that great of armor. And they're only 1 wound each. Like, they're no better than phase 1s. Because also, there's, outside of Rebels, there is a distinct lack of Pierce. And I'm totally excluding Saber users, because if a Saber user gets into your arc, you're dead anyway.
Yeah, like whatever.
No amount of Impervious is ever going to save you from Vader or Maul. Like, you're dead.
Well, I think the arcs came out at the perfect time also, like, kind of on top of what you're saying, to counter the gun lines that were out there at the moment. You know what I mean?
Well, they were the gun lines.
Because, well, you went from having, like, tons of, like, mixed gun lines to suddenly being, yeah, like, they are the gun line. Because they're out-piercing things. They're out-criticaling things. I don't know. I'm not sure if how do you feel about the whole critical thing, though? Because, like, I don't know if I want it back. I'll be real. I would like it back. But I don't know if that would be too much of a correction or if it's just a points change that needs to happen on them.
My whole thoughts on this is I'm so much happier that they swung way too hard on clones rather than, like, incrementally trying to balance. I'm like, no, go super hard and then dial it back. Because it's way easier.
Like, find out where you were
back.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the big things is I don't know, with Rex, it's he either needs to stay at his points and get back clankers, or keep clankers as he is and get his original points back. And I'm like, and then I think Rex is fine.
Yeah.
Because Rex does not really throw attack dice. He is a support piece. He passes out tokens, and he's got scouting party, and clankers was his best card.
I mean, by far, it's kind of like if you take Iden and you say, oh, Tax Strike is now only range 2. You're like, oh, that's...
Yeah, it's like, that
like,
feels bad.
It still works, but suddenly, like, it's not the same. Yeah.
Or even make it like Iden and 2 troopers, like most normal 3 pits. Like, that
Tax Strike
destroys it.
only works if you have an aim when you do things, like your own aim. It's like, oh, that... Okay, well, that doesn't work at all the same.
Like, and specifically for clankers, I was like, I like the change because that's thematically like what it should have been the whole time. But I'm like, oh, but from a gameplay standpoint, that just destroyed Rex.
Yeah, and I mean, he was hit with so many things at the same time. Losing critical, arc trooper points going up,
just token sharing
getting changed.
By the way, that needs to stay the way it is.
I agree. I can see a world where you're allowed to spend like 2 surges and 1 aim and 1 dodge.
Nope.
But
I don't want it.
Immediately you just become like death troopers again, where you're like, oh, you're just not killing me. Or I can throw Z6 fire support shots and I have all the surges and all the aims. And I don't want that again.
So, counter to that, I'm actually saying that token sharing should still just completely go away from clones.
Really?
Yeah, because...
Period.
Let's look at LVO. This is the great example. 20%, what were the lists that were doing well? The exemplar lists. And what do the exemplar lists do? Share tokens.
To be fair, they share tokens to non-clone things, though.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if anything, I want token sharing to be completely gone and give Clone Trooper something else.
So, like, no exemplar, period, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So not even exemplar the keyword.
Oh no, like
Or you just mean clone token sharing?
the clone keyword, like clone trooper keyword.
Oh, I see what you're
is
saying.
no token sharing.
Because you're already getting exemplar stuff, so you're like, why do I care about paying points for a clone trooper keyword?
Yeah.
You know, that's actually a very interesting thing, because I think if you change that, if you take away the clone trooper keyword, I think you're able to drop the points on phase 2s.
And phase 1s.
And phase 1s, to be completely honest. Like, I know it's not much, but I think if you're able to drop them by 5 points each, suddenly, maybe not 5 points each, because phase 1s no, because at that point they're just shore troopers.
Which, to be fair, they are the exact same price right now. They're both 52 points.
They are. But shore troopers have target. If you take away the clone trooper keyword, I guess you still have fire support, but I don't value fire support as much as target.
Yeah. Plus, like, you'd have to give them something else for clone trooper. Like, I'm not saying, like, just... It's not like Wookiee Warriors where it's like, cool, I'm a Wookiee Warrior.
Yeah.
It's like, no, clone troopers get something, like, even if it's, like, implacable or something. Like, rolling red on there because they're brave.
Oh, indomitable.
So that's what it is, not implacable. Give them indomitable or something. I'm like... Because the Exemplar has shown us that, like, token sharing is stupid good in this game. Like, having an efficient action economy of just being able to be like, okay, I am maximizing everything. It's not like, oh, I aimed with my snipers and they both got crits. Now I'm just stuck with a name on my commando unit.
On the flips, I have a flip side of it all. Is exemplar token sharing also a bad thing? Because I feel like the clones have never been very well balanced. Does that make sense? I mean, like Gar in general.
Yes.
And so we've just gone from one token sharing archetype to another token sharing archetype.
Yeah.
And the only things that are good in Gar are not necessarily good lists, but more like broken things. Does that make sense?
Yep. Because we saw that. That is something we did see. Like, successful Gar lists had minimal core or minimal clone troopers, and they maximized on sharing into the Saber tank. I can't even think of another clone list that did well outside of the Yoda Saber.
There weren't many. I know there was a couple people that tried to run, even as like just a joke, the Fluttercrafts.
There was one person that did Fluttercraft.
I think it was two people. One ran one Fluttercraft. I think the other ran two. I've played Fluttercrafts. I'm undefeated with them. Granted, they're casual games. I don't think they're that bad. I think you need a 3 of, and I think you can't make them... I don't like the fire support with them. I'll be honest. I think there's better fire support platforms. Yeah, man, Gar's in a weird place. A part of me also just wants other troopers that do other things, because I feel like there aren't very many interesting things to do right now, unless you're doing, like, Yoda, Anakin shenanigans. Does that make sense?
Which, what do they both do? Share their tokens.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like...
Or give extra actions, yeah.
Gar is in a really weird spot right now, which sucks because that's my favorite list. That's my favorite army. That's what I have a bunch of.
I agree with you. I think ISPs are, though, a little... Because this is your side
Yeah,
of the
this is
table.
my personal thing.
I agree with you about ISPs. I think they're a little underrated and a little underutilized.
Good. Keep thinking that, Internet. Keep thinking that, Internet.
Yeah.
I'll get a point decrease and just get better, and I'll be like, sweet!
And then clone trooper keyword will change, and they'll just be the hotness.
But yeah, I'm totally, like, if I were to redesign it, like, I would totally be willing to just completely give up clone token sharing from the clone trooper keyword. Give them something else. I don't know what. Like, I'd have to brainstorm on that. But in exchange for, like, either dropping points and getting, like, a weaker keyword... Because nobody's taking phase 2s. Nobody's taking ARC troopers.
Well,
Nobody's taking Rex.
They're just flat out 10 points more.
Yeah, like
it's
they're
a
not
lot.
good. The only reason people are taking phase 1s is phase 1s are basically now rebel troopers. They're like, okay, here's my tax. And I'm like, that's not how that should work.
Do you remember a couple months ago when the first changes happened and when everybody was trying out like phase 1s with extra guns and stuff? I still think there's something there, but it's just not as interesting as putting all my points into Jedi anymore. Or Wookiees.
Yeah. Which, surprisingly, how well Gar Wookiees have been doing. Because, like, I wrote them off as, like, they're too expensive and they just don't fit. And then people have been proving me wrong left and right.
Turns out when you have tons of standby shenanigans, Wookiees turn out to be really, really good. I've played them in the past couple weeks because I played droids right before LVO, and then since then I've played the Wookiees 6 times in Gar lists.
Because you got them all painted.
I got them all painted. One of them, the times was just with the triple Fluttercraft Chieftain, triple Wookiees, just 3-phase ones because you can. No, 4-phase ones because I could. Yeah, and the rest were all Yoda Wookiee lists, and Yoda Wookiee list is the only time I lost, but it was against a Vader Palpatine list. It was Vader Palp IRGs, triple Snows, and then quad Snows, and then 2 units of full Scout Troopers with Pierce, because then you're getting hit by 10 black dice, Pierce 1 at range 2, 3 times a game. You're gonna that's Wookiees only have 12 wounds. Yeah. You're losing half.
They're
your
not
units.
saving many.
They're not saving anything. And then the Pierce is just
the one that you do get. You're like, oh, I guess it's a blank.
Yeah, I guess it's a blank. I blank out completely. But even then in that game, it came down to Vader and 1 Wookiee being alive, and Vader had the hostage and the Wookiees didn't. That was game. Even if I did have the hostage, I would have lost on kill points. But
because it was Commander Vader, right?
It was Op Vader.
Oh, it was.
So I only would have lost by I think it was 80 points after upgrades, which is super close, but I haven't lost the rest of them. I think Yoda and Wookiees is really, really freaking good. And I've been running Chewbacca with him, and I'm really liking Chewbacca. A ton.
Nice.
Yeah, but I think that's another thing people should be trying out. I don't... It's everything's in a weird place.
Yeah,
but it's in a good place.
That's why I'm I totally agree with Team Relentless. I'm we're getting a good idea of what's going on. Nothing is concrete because someone shows up with something and it's oh wow, that really is good.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't believe there weren't that many T-47s at LVO.
I think everyone was too scared of the Ion.
Yeah,
I'm expecting more T-47s at Adepticon.
Yeah, because I figured with the Ion, you get ionized, you probably don't get shut down, hopefully, but because you have R2 and stuff, so you can just pull the Ion off if you're close enough.
Yeah, but that's only for the first round. After that,
I don't know if you need more than 1 round with the T-47s, because one T-47, it's probably not killing a thing right off the bat, but if you can outlast the spiders, you compulsory aim shoot or move shoot, and then you just last first them and get out of there. I think there are ways to play around them, and I think if they get in, kill something and get out, depending on what it is, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Even if it's a B1 squad or something, if they can throw dice and get out, I think I'm okay with it.
When I think the effect of the spiders is people are okay, yes, this will wreck an armored unit, but if I have 2 armored units, it's I'm not, it'll hurt, but it's not devastating. If you ran 2 airspeeders, you're all right, fine. You can either completely shut one down and let the other one just roam around for free, or you can, try to get both of them, but then you're not killing armor, and that's really bad.
Yeah. I mean, it also doesn't help that, some vehicles have native cover, and... Well, I'll be honest. The spiders with the engagement protocols and stuff is pretty crazy.
Attack protocols.
Oh yeah, I keep saying engagement. I think
no, that's the normal one. That's the expensive one that nobody takes.
Yeah, but yeah. Let's be real. That one should have been 3 points, but whatever.
Because the other big takeaway from LVO is people are okay, spiders are really good in 2s. 3 seems like overkill, and 1's not enough. And I think that's because 2 spiders takes care of an armored unit. They can just bully it to death, and it just is a non-factor in the game. But if you run, 2 ISPs, 2 air speeders, you probably can't run 2 ATSTs. That's a lot of points. Or even, but if you run a single ATST, if you run a single AAT, if you run a single air speeder, you're going to have a bad time against 2 spiders.
Yeah. Oh, completely. There's a lot to be said about them. This is a hot take. I don't think they're as bad as people are saying generally, because they're just gun platforms.
They're 68 points. They're cheap.
They are super cheap gun platforms. I think if you just adjust the points a little bit, I think they're fine. because when you look at the support stuff for CIS, you're like, okay, Staps are amazing. Staps are great. Spiders are amazing.
Poor
Droidicas,
Poor Droidicas.
not so much. Definitely like
Still the redheaded stepchild. of droids.
such the redhead stepchild. Like a part of me is like they need to come down even more in points, but then I feel like you run that risk of them being just
Super, because they started at 100 points.
100 points, and I think they're like a flat 80 now.
I think it's 75.
Oh, it may be because they may have dropped even more.
It's either 70 or 75. To the internet.
I mean, here's the thing about the spiders is like, because while we're looking up the points, I think that the spiders you just need to raise the points on the upgrades.
75 points for Droidicas.
Okay.
So they're down a quarter of their original cost, and they're still not great.
Let's be real. It's 80. You're probably taking LTAs on them.
You know what I just thought about? This is a hot take I just literally thought about right now.
Yo, what is it?
So, spider droids are good if you have a super tack. Like, they're not good if you have a normal T series as your HQ, or even with like Dooku.
Yeah.
Like, because they need that to babysit them. I'm wondering if like Kraken would be good with Droidicas.
Just for the override?
Just for the override. Because, like, let's be honest, the reason why Droidicas are so bad is because of their AI and because it's so awkward to get them orders. So I'm wondering if you can override them, if they would be good.
I think, possibly, because you got to think they already have the AI move and attack built in. But I think the biggest problem is, like, for their points, all they're throwing out is 6 dice, no keywords.
That's suppression.
Yeah, but we're kind of in a meta right. Well, yeah, we're in a meta.
Not
where
against, like,
melee doesn't really like things don't really care about the suppressive keyword that much.
It is immune deflect.
Yeah, but that's just because you have shields.
But that's a bit. There are a lot of saber users running around. There is a lot of Vader running around.
True, but gems, you gotta. Yeah, but you're not getting deflected a ton. Like, plus the big thing about the saber users is if they get into melee with the Droidicas, shields don't work worth crap, and so like Vader kills a full set of Droidicas in a swing.
Theoretically,
Well,
depends on if he played his 3-pip card.
No, any of them, because he throws 6 dice, pierce 3, and they only have 3 health each.
Yeah, but he
Surge
doesn't
defense.
surge. Like, the odds of missing 1 on 6 red dice is not unheard of.
If you do that and you get that much, I would expect any random trooper unit to just crit you and kill you.
Yeah, no, like, I'm still saying they're dead, but I'm like, it's not... Vader doesn't auto one-shot. He's got, like, an 86%.
It's pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah, you still write him off, but anyway, but my point...
I just think they need, like, a keyword or something else added, because I don't think suppressive alone and immune deflect is enough. But that's just me. I think, but yeah, I don't know, with the spiders, I just think they need to raise the points on a couple of the upgrades, and I think they'll be fine. Because the base chassis is not that expensive.
55 points, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's an ATRT. It's literally an ATRT that explodes.
Mm-hmm. But if you add, like, if you make the attack protocols 5 points, and then the ion blaster itself is 15.
I still can't believe that's 10 points.
Can you believe that?
And I think why is because literally every other version of Ion has been terrible.
Yeah.
So they're like, all right, fine, we'll do one that's good. And it's like, hold up there. Hold up there.
I mean, let's be real. The reason it's amazing, too, is because you already said this, like, the super tax, right? Like,
Yeah, they're not good without super tax.
like what would happen if you didn't have Kalani being able to issue orders to both each turn and then pass out aims so you can get triple aimed attacks?
Or even double aimed attack. Like, worst
Yeah.
case scenario, you get double aimed. It's like, oh no, I only have 2 aims. I only reroll 8 dice instead of 4.
Yeah.
Or instead of 12.
Like, it would not be the same thing at all. It's that combination. But I think that's the thing, right? Like, if you attack the sources of the problems, which is, like, the cheapness of the gun and the cheapness of Precise 2, because Precise 2 should never have been 3 points. Like, that's just
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's
It was
insane.
so good.
I mean, let's think about how much, I think, what is it, 6 points for, targeting scopes?
No, that's what the printed cost is. I think it's like 3 points for the actual upgrade.
Oh, no, I mean, like, targeting scopes.
Yeah.
The one that gives you Precise 1.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a good way to see what is this game value the Precise keyword at right?
Targeting scopes are 4 points.
They're 4 points.
They're printed as 6.
So that alone right there, because I get that it's like probably they see it as like, okay, it's probably like a 4 or 5 point upgrade, but you have a downside, so you take a minus.
Of AI.
So you take like a minus of 2 or 3 points. Whereas I think the thing is you should instead be doubling that. It's probably an 8-point upgrade with a downside of like 2 or 3 points. So it should be a 5 to 6 point upgrade, right?
Yeah. Honestly, I think for spiders, if they just swapped engagement protocols with attack protocols and changed either the flamer or the main cannon with the ion points-wise, if they did those 2 swaps, I think it's fine.
Agreed.
It's still super good. But now with how bids are working out and everyone pushing to 800 points, you have to cut a lot to run 2 of those.
Yes. Because that right there alone is 16 to 20 points extra in a list. Which, to be fair, means you're dropping a heavy upgrade or you're not taking all the little fluff that comes in your army.
Little extra toys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because they're still good. I mean, they're going to be good no matter what. Like, you'd have to change a lot of keywords or attack dice to change just how good they are.
Yeah.
Which I don't want them to do because that's printed cards and that's always weird, especially for new players.
Yeah. We've had a lot of new people come in recently to play. And
Anakin's cards do what? It's like, yeah, no, they changed that.
It's getting to the point where I have to feel like I almost want to walk them through their command card choices because I'm like, no, that actually does this now, this does that. Like, I guess this is another side question, a topic for another time, but is it time for a 2.0 release of stuff? Maybe not a 2.0 game because I think the game doesn't need that right now.
Nope.
But like a 2.0 release of cards, like updated card packs.
No. I don't think enough has changed to warrant that the same way that like Song of Ice and Fire has. Especially because AMG has had one pass at it. They swung really hard on a couple things, and I'm expecting them to dial it back on some of them. So I don't want them to like reprint Take That Clankers to then suddenly be like, hold on, we're going back to the old Take That Clankers. Get rid of this one completely.
Your money's no good here.
Yeah, like that
Yeah.
gets all sorts of weird. So I'm like, I think, yes, eventually there is definitely a time to do a reprint of, like, here's all the new stuff. Or even do what they're doing with Crisis Protocol. And they're like, here's the new cards, print them out, and put them in your sleeves. Which is fine. And I think they have technically done that. No, they haven't. Not on everything, because a lot of it's just text. Maybe if they did that.
Yeah.
And then maybe next year relook at it, especially after another RRG update. And be like, okay, now let's look at it and be like, okay, here are the new ones. Because a new card for like the Airspeeder that has pretty much stayed where it's at for the last 2 years, I'm like, okay, that one's fine to get a reprint.
Because I don't think that one's anywhere close to changing either. Like,
No.
yeah.
I still think it needs to.
Really?
Oh, it's so good. I think it needs to go up by 10 points and it'd be fine.
You know, I would agree with that. Especially with the way bidding is, there's a lot of like extra tools people are taking. I think it's okay to say, drop that extra heavy for this thing because air speeders are crazy.
Which is funny though, because now you do have to take 2 of them because of what we literally just talked about with the spiders. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, one air speeder is no longer good.
Find 20 extra points in your list somewhere. Yeah. So here's the other question I want to have because people were complaining a lot about that. They're also complaining about Magna Guards. What do you think about Magna Guards? Because I've heard a lot, and I'll tell you my opinion in a sec. What do you think of them?
They're fine.
See, that's how I feel. I don't feel like Magnas are that. I mean, they have crazy abilities, but I don't feel like they're. Like I look at Wookiees, and Wookiees are also just as crazy. Like
For just the same amount of points.
for just the same amount of points, but you get 12 health instead of 8. Yeah, you have white dice instead of red, but we've all blinked out on red dice. I feel like Magna Guards are, and I know a lot of people complain about the rocket. Maybe the rocket could go up a couple points, but I feel like Magnas are mostly as crazy as people think they are because they are a hard counter to the Wookiee meta. And even then, they're not even that of a hard counter. You kind of got to trade a couple punches to see who's going to win the fight.
Yeah. And I think that's also just kind of at the meta where we're at right now is we're doing multi-wound trooper units. Like, that is the meta. Whether it be Dewbacks, Wookiees, I'm surprised Tauntauns haven't made a comeback.
Gosh, tell me about it.
Magna Guard, And Wookiees for clones. I was like, what do clones have? If I were to make a change to Magna Guard, I'd probably just take away their retinue. I think the rocket's fine. I really do. I think it is super good for what it is, but you're not taking 3 units of them. It's not a spammable thing. Is it really good? Yeah. But there's also other things that make it good elsewhere in the list. Looking at you, E5C.
The E5Ss.
That's what it is. Man, that thing's good. We've already had... By the way, if you're ever in Demolition Games at like 9:30 with me and Matt, this is all we do. We just remembered to turn on a microphone tonight.
It's
literally our conversations.
We literally do this a couple times a week too. Like we got started to recording a little late too because we just.
Oh yeah, we're like,
so
no, we gotta push
much
play.
talking.
Hit record, go now, and we'll just keep going. But yeah, Magna Guard I think are fine. I'd probably, because just the green, again, with the green tokens, and just how flexible they are, because people have made the comments like, wow, guard or droids now look like clones. I'm like, I think that would be the only change. Maybe make the rocket cost like 2 or 5 more points. Fine. I get that it doesn't tap, it's not cumbersome, it has critical 2 and impact 2.
A critical 1, impact 2. Yeah.
Oh, critical 1, yeah. But I'm like, but it's the same dice pool as like literally every other rocket except for stormtroopers, but nobody takes that anyway because it's cumbersome and taps. I'm like, yeah, I get where like if you one-on-one compare it to everything, yeah, it's bad. But if you compare it to everything else in the droids, like what it enables and what it replaces, I'm like, Magna Guard are fine. I think it's just the retinue that you take that away. Because it's retinue, or make it retinue like Grievous. Not just make it retinue HQ or Commander.
Not
like,
whatever the heck you want.
Yeah, just tie it to a specific.
Because let's be real, there is a world where you take just a regular attack droid to run up with a Magna Guard just to give them tokens. Because it's going to feel real bad for your opponent to say, oh, I'm going to shoot that attack droid. Like, sure, it'll die, but what's hilarious is if you take just attack droid, then the Magna Guards become their own commanders, and then they retinue themselves.
Or Maul,
and then suddenly Maul's like I think it's a little, it's a bit much. I think so. You brought up something I think is kind of the secret boogeyman of the droids that I don't see people talk about, but you brought this up to me in private. I think the real problem is a range 4 critical gun for under 20 points.
It's so
on a unit
good.
of 8 men.
Or 7.
Or
people take it on 7. That's the thing, is like they're not even taking 8.
Like
they're taking 7.
Like the E5S is the real problem. I mean, because if you thought you hated the sniper meta, that's the one thing I will say about the droids, is watching LVO, every top table play was just, my droid sniper is going to set out here and crit you at range 4.
My droid sniper will also sit here at range 4 with his 2 friends that take the wounds from your sniper.
Exactly. And it was kind of the dumbest thing, because you could talk about the spiders, but the spiders were just like another range 4 gun on top. And I think that was the thing where it's like, okay, the droids are just playing sniper games right now. But when you watched every other army play, they were super interacting with melee in range 2 and range 3. And it was super fun to watch. Not that... Now, I as a droid player, I don't want all this to change too much, but I think if you adjust the points on the E5Ss, I think you may fix a lot of the problems with the armies. Just because suddenly the whole range of the army decreases by so much to become a range 3 army, and so you go back to using the E5Cs, and suddenly I think Magnas and droid spiders aren't that terrible looking anymore.
No, I think they are. I think
they still are. Oh, they still are. But suddenly you're not getting shot by 10 units a turn at range 4. You're getting shot by a couple. Like you can suddenly you feel like you can move up your army. And do you remember how that was with clones, where you just felt like you couldn't walk up?
Yes.
Yeah.
I still play that.
Yeah.
I was like, people still play that. They still feel that way against me. Yeah, range 4. Yeah. It's just, but I don't know. I'm so torn. I don't want droids to lose range 4 because every core unit has an access to range 4. Rebels, I mean, that's all stormtroopers have. Phase 1s have range 4. I don't want them to lose range 4. I want them to lose critical. That's what I want to see happen. I don't want the points to change at all Because I'm like 60 points for a 8-man unit with range 4, white, and a red. But I'm like, it's that critical. Everyone rolls a surge. Everyone always rolls a surge. That's what made ARC Troopers so bad, is losing critical 1. I think if you just took away critical 1 from the E5S. Did I say that right?
I like that. Yeah,
I know. I'm like, hold on.
Wording it out.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, I think if you take away the critical from that, it fixes it and it's fine. You can still spam it and you can still have, because throwing a red and a white die, I mean, ask Stormtroopers how that goes, and they surge. And people still don't take that gun.
Yeah, like you have to really take a ton of aims to. Well, they have that one that's like 3 white and a red. But yeah, they choose the critical.
Yeah, but they don't take that
choose the
gun
with
because
critical.
it's range 4 too. Like, it's a better E5S.
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, we don't want that.
The only reason I don't want it to go away is because I feel like every other core trooper has options to get critical. So for me, it's like just raise the points cost, because paying under 20 points for that is crazy.
Well, it came out as 20 points.
Yeah, like I get why they lowered it, because the base cost went up 2 points.
Because nobody was taking it before. But that was a whole different meta.
Oh no, everybody was taking it before.
No,
Well,
nobody took it. Everyone just took naked B1s.
That's true, but now the meta's shifted to more like full armies.
Yeah, now with the Kashyyyk wave. There's
Like-
no more. There's way less supporting units. There are so many combat ready. I'm throwing D8s. Like, looking at those lists too for the top 6, there were like at most 2 throwaway units. At most.
Oh yeah, and the Rebels list was like just. Did they even have the generic commander? I don't think they did.
No, they had a rebel vet. They had a naked rebel vet. Everyone else,
His list had 2. His list, both of them I checked afterwards. They both had heavies. Everything in that list was a shooty.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, top play is now
crazy.
seeing like, no, we're milking every unit for everything that it's worth.
Not as many activations. That's the thing that does scare me a lot about droids, is I feel like droids walk this line where if you put their points up too much, suddenly they immediately go back to just having to milk tons of activations that are with worthless activations. You know what I mean? Which on the one hand, I'm like, okay, well, that's thematic. Go ahead and do that. But on the other hand, I'm like, we just barely took the game to a place where that's not what's happening. I don't know. There's
But
something
again,
said
we're
there.
also at the point where that might change in the next 9 months.
You know,
Like, we might crack the code come July.
And maybe people will just naturally start taking counters to things. I also think people are thinking droids are a boogeyman. A part of me is like, no, that's okay. Like, I think there's a lot of other stuff. I think the real interesting stuff is seeing the Han, Chewie, Luke lists. Have you seen all those everywhere?
Yes.
Holy crap, are they crazy?
Finally, someone's taking Seize the Initiative.
Yeah, right?
Zero pip, here comes Luke. Boo!
Jeez.
I still hate Luke.
So, you gotta learn how to play a Force
No, I
user,
hate.
man.
I know. I'm gonna play Dooku. I got his command cards. I hate Luke.
Dude, but he loves you.
I don't care. I don't like him.
Oh, dude, I think Luke is so crazy. He's definitely hard to play sometimes, but he just has all the abilities, everything you want. So, Josh, we've talked about all of it. What do you think are considerations for the future with the meta? Heading into tournaments, people are going to be taking all this stuff, probably what they saw at LVO, and they'll be iterating. What do you think people should be worried for, and what do you think people should be preparing to play at tournaments?
I have no idea.
Me neither.
I was like, no, because seriously, because think about it. Like, we're talking about this in February of 2022. Literally in like 3 months, we're getting a brand new faction. If you thought Kashyyyk threw everything up in the air, a new faction is going to just destroy everything. Plus, whenever Battle Buddies come out, because that's soon-ish,
Yeah.
I have a feeling that's coming out this year for sure.
I kind of hope it is.
Because I don't know if, because we don't even know if there's minis attached to that. It could just be cards, which is way easier to distribute.
Man, could you imagine if it was just cards? Like, there would be no more waiting in, like, off the coast of somewhere, because you're just shipping paper. Like, if WotC can get their cards printed in Japan and here every single, like, release, every card game does it, Pokemon, Magic, Flesh and Blood, whatever. Dude, we could have battle forces the day of.
Yeah.
The day they say.
Sorry, UK and Canada. You're not getting our money this time.
I was this close to buying stuff online. The problem is with Shadow Collective, I'm probably still going to order from the UK.
Yeah.
But,
Anyway, but yeah, but we don't know anything about Battle Brothers. So, it's so hard to be like, hey, even for our tournament in May, or even Adepticon, it's like, what should you look out for? I don't know. Take the punches as they go, because it's going to change a lot.
I was thinking maybe the droids will be played a lot more, but I feel like people are going to be more inclined to figure out, okay, everybody who's going to play droids, how do I beat them? And I think Adepticon is going to be a ton of people opting to not play droids. Does that make sense?
No, I think a bunch of people are going to take droids.
See, I think it's going to be the opposite. I think it'll be people reacting and saying, well, this beats droids, so I want to take it. Because
that's what I'm doing.
Well, that's what I think happened with, I'll be straight up, that's what I think happened with LVO, is everybody went, there's going to be a ton of Wookiees. How do I beat Wookiees? Well, droids are pretty good against Wookiees.
And they destroy armor.
And they can take care of armor. I'll run both.
By the way, what was it? It was less than half the list had armor?
Because they're all afraid of spiders.
Yeah. That was crazy.
So maybe, you know what, that's interesting. What if Adepticon is just a bunch of, powerful gunline stuff? That's why I think this Han, Luke, Chewie stuff is crazy. Because there's so much Pierce. And there's just really good dice pools with a ton of dodge synergy.
Because here's what's super crazy that I, okay, Adepticon is the end of March. So that's 7-ish weeks away?
7 or 8, yeah.
Something like that. What if the start of March, Shadow Collective starts becoming available? What if Shadow Collective is legal for Adepticon?
And that's the new hotness all of a sudden.
Yeah, people are going to lose their minds. They're what do I take? What do I do? It's going to be awesome. I hope it happens.
That actually would be absolutely amazing, because I don't think anybody would know what to do. It would be just like Phase 2s and AATs right before the last Worlds, where they were like, oh, psych, this is dropping. Also, if you want to play this, just come buy it at Adepticon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, everything happened. Anyway,
yeah.
Curse those murder hornets.
Do
you remember that?
I still, I forgot that was that same year. I blame Harambe.
Everything was going great until 2016.
The Bengals quarterback says he's going to win the Super Bowl for Harambe to break the curse. Have you heard that?
No, but that's amazing.
It's hilarious. It's so funny. If he does it and it actually breaks the curse,
awesome.
I'm not that superstitious, but
I'll
be a believer. Yeah. I don't know. I'm super excited. A part of me really wants to run the Yoda Wookiees there. I'm having so much fun with Yoda. He just makes every objective that I hated touching his clones just so much fun. Recover the supplies. I play that tonight. Tons of fun. Yoda is just crazy for that objective. Guidance is ridiculous. Vaps were stupid because you just...
Also,
it's dumb.
It's worth noting, you're not running Padme.
I'm not running Padme.
So you're not even
points.
Optimizing Yoda.
No. When I was messaging Marshall about it today during lunch, I was like, this is the list I've been having tons of fun with. He's like, that's great. I can't wait to do that, but I have Padme in the list. And I immediately was like, oh yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, because then you could do even more standby nonsense.
The funny thing is, I'm not even doing standby nonsense. I'm just... Yoda, it's just crazy.
Here's extra Pierce for my Wookiees. Here's a free Pierce for all of my attacks.
Do you know how amazing it is to turn 1 have 3 dodges available to your Wookiees? After Yoda goes, because Yoda can go and, use force reflexes on himself. But also to give everybody surges and aims. Your Wookiees can move, charge, turn 1. I've had it happen so many times because you give them scout, they scout up, they move, Yoda gives them another move because... Some people are dumb and they move their guys up too quickly, and so you take advantage of it. But man, it's just wild. Yoda's cards are wild. Yoda's wild. He's really hard to play. I have a lot of fun with it. I'm honestly thinking about taking that to Adepticon.
Be careful of Han, because change of plans will wreck your day.
Yes, it will.
Because it happened to LVO.
Yes, it will. That's why I also keep Wookiee cards in my back pocket for it.
Once again, Tiffany's gonna wreck your day.
yeah, she will. Kills me every time.
Soon Kevin's gonna wreck your day too. He's been dipping into the Rebels.
Yeah, it actually scares me a lot because Rebels.
A lot of people have been dipping into Han, and especially after LVO. Even Marshall's going back to I want to run Han and Luke because he's watched that firsthand. And it was that looked really fun.
That's what I think the real meta is, right? Is not developed yet. Because I know people are all freaking about droids, but dude, there's all this other stuff that's untouched yet. That was real. I'm surprised Vader. To be fair, all the Empire players did well with Vader, but man, like Vader is just insane. He's crazy good.
Mm-hmm.
We need to see more of him.
And honestly, I think it was Yavin Base that really hit it for why Empire didn't show up in the top 6, is because when they were talking in that last game, the guy who won,
J.R. Thomas, yeah.
J.R. Thomas. Yeah, I was like, it's J something. They're like, yeah, he's played droids since they've came out, and since Maul has come out, he's never not played with Maul. Which again, I'm going back and I'm claiming like total pride in saying that what you know how to play or what you're comfortable with, you will do better than someone who just, oh, Empire got huge buffs, let's do it.
Well, it's
because you know the nuances of what you're running.
Well, it's like with Vader at I think it was Lone Star Open or
Nova,
Nova,
or something.
yeah.
Like it was before
like,
the RRG.
Like he took second with like it was Dradi or whatever. Took second. No, that was in Invader League. Dradi was playing. He did really well, and then somebody else did amazing, and he took second at the Open with Vader
and Dewbacks.
But that's because he'd been playing Vader Dewbacks since forever, and this is pre-Vader buffs. He had been doing that well. And it's kind of like with Tiffany and the Han Solo stuff. It's like she played that forever, and she was amazing at it forever. And now that the buffs came along, it was just she was primed
Even
and
better.
ready to win. And I think that's the thing with droids. Is I think they're a little bit of this new hotness that people took because they were like, well, this will give me the edge against Wookiees.
No, that's
and
what happened
against
with
other stuff.
Empire. Because Empire had the largest showing at LVO.
Mm-hmm. Oh, easily. But those people obviously didn't have the experience to play it.
Right, which is showed in the top 6 because it was mostly droids. It's like, no, droid players, like people who play droids, know droids.
Dude, they are the hardest faction to pick up.
Once you get it.
Yep. Completely agree on that front. Like, it's like every game, like the more you play your faction and know your faction, you'll do well. It's like the Yoda stuff. Yoda's super hard, but JD Nelson, who plays the Yoda Padme Saber, who actually did really well. He was like top 16 at LVO. He's from St. George around here. He's been playing that Yoda Padme Saber since like forever.
Since it got spoiled.
Yeah, since
he's
it
like,
got
that's what
spoiled.
Yoda does. I'm going to start using it.
And he's really good at it. He's like undefeated in Yavin Base with it. So he's just doing
good for
amazing.
him.
Yeah, he's
I
doing
didn't know
great.
that. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. There's a lots of stuff to learn, lots of stuff to grow with.
It's a great time to be a Legion player.
Yeah,
Because and there's just so much more stuff that's coming. Like, okay, here's the big thing. Like, I know I just typed up Shadow Collective a lot. I think the first initial wave of Shadow Collective, people are going to lose their minds and then realize, oh, it's not that scary. Because it's just going to be like when the Clone Wars came out and everyone's like, clones and droids. And they're like, wait, give it like 2 or 3 expansions. Because it wasn't until ARCs and BX droids came out that's when they really took off.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there was that Double the Fall list like that made use of B2s, and it was really good. But once you figured out how to play against Double the Fall, you're like, oh,
I know what to do.
I know how to beat this. And even then, that was like using the first like 2 or 3 waves of releases for Clone Wars. You're right about that, because even with clones, like you really had only Rex. There was no Clone Commander. It's no arcs. Kenobi, I still don't know what to think about Kenobi. But whatever.
I'm the wrong person to ask for that.
I don't know. You're the person that I've never beaten your Kenobi.
I've played it. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I've played it once.
Granted, that was like almost 2 years ago, which is
Pre-pandemic.
crazy.
That
Yeah,
was 2 years ago.
can you believe that? Yeah, it's like over 2 years ago. 'Cause that was like November of like 2019, pre-pandemic. Yeah, that was
I don't
crazy.
know, that was a long time ago.
But yeah.
All right. Anyway, closing thoughts for you. Like, okay, let's do this. What is... Had an idea, now it's gone.
It's okay. I was gonna say, like, what's your hot take for the meta right now, if you want to do it, or what are you thinking? Jog your memory.
Nothing solved. There are definitely front runners. Nothing is concrete.
Agree. Agree. That's like my hot take too. Is like, my hot take is I don't think droids are as bad as people are saying. I still think they're good, but I don't think they're like clone token sharing need to get nerfed into the ground. And if they need to get touched, I think only the lightest of touches will be needed to put them back where they are.
Yeah, I do agree that Magna Guard and spider droids and super tax, like together, are clearly very good. I don't want them to touch super tax at all.
No.
Magna
no.
Guard, fine. We've already talked about that. And spiders. Like,
But even then, that's like just point touches. They don't have to do much more than that.
yeah.
I think if you do more than that, suddenly droids get kind of, I don't want to say pushed back into the Dark Age, but I think if you do more than that, they're not up to date with the meta. Does that make sense? I think if you take that away, Wookiees just go back to being the thing again.
No.
And buses.
I think maybe with buses.
Because I think it goes back to buses again. Because I think Magna Guards are just the whole, like, you can run a bus, but I will kill whatever comes out of the bus.
I don't know.
And spiders are the whole, like, I'm going to make sure that bus doesn't try and move. Because buses are the things that people are running ones of, not two of anymore. Like, that's what I think is they're very much a hard response to the previous meta. Because I don't think they are the kind of thing that can make a meta. I think they're the kind of thing that can counter a meta. And that's what droids always have been, is something that can counter what's going on, not set the tone, but you know what I mean? They're not the big brother who will pave the path. They're the brother that will, like, take note and improve on it. And so they'll never be able to pave the thing. They just don't have the things to do it, I don't think.
Okay. On the note of Rebels, since we didn't talk about them at all, I think collectively Rebel players have moved on from the truck because of Han.
Which is so funny because I think Han in the truck is also kind of good. Well, I will admit I think Han getting fire supported shots from Rebel vets is better, but
plus Han has now enabled Luke even more, especially with burst of speed. Chewbacca is an auto good for Han. Han doesn't even need Chewie; it just makes him better.
Chewie can now Guardian crits, which
yeah,
is
I know, right?
Stupid.
That's what I'm I think collectively Rebel players have moved on from the truck. As this is the good thing. I still think there are players who are no, the truck is really good and I will make use of it. Especially because I spent, $60 or whatever
50 or 60, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's still good. I don't think it's the auto-insane thing it was when it was released, especially with its points changes. Even if spiders got removed, I don't know if it's that dominant anymore because people are now playing without it. Why spend 90 points on a truck when you can just get Han?
See, and that's why I'm I completely agree with you. I will say this, I completely agree with you. But that's why I think the droids are more of a reactionary faction to the meta than the meta setters. Because if the Rebel players go, okay, great, we're just going to start playing Han, Luke, and Chewie. Droids, spiders are very good with that, and Magnus can help. But how are you going to get around, the low profile? How are you going to, essentially what you're thinking is okay, the Magnus are there to stop Luke. But Luke can disengage and swing twice. So even not being able to pierce, he just has dice to kill stuff. And so with disengage, he's going to be really hard to just keep there. He has command cards that say I can make the you know what I mean? This is why I think it's going to be more reactionary than anything else. But if I'm just trying to think what would be the best to counter a Han, Chewie, Luke thing, because I don't know what would be the best.
That's why I'm not really scared of the truck anymore. I personally am very scared of the truck still, but I don't think it is the defining piece that it was last year.
Agreed. It's funny that we say last year, but it was 6 months ago. I guess it was last year.
Yeah, that's
technically was.
It was released April of last year.
That's just
which was 8 months ago. 9, 10. Meh. It's February, March, April. Yeah, 10 months ago.
The problem is after 2017, time just sped up.
And slowed down at the exact same time.
Yeah, it's been the most weird time.
Okay, so final thoughts, because I finally remember what I was going to say. If you, right now, February 2022, had to be this is the meta, what would you say the meta is?
Whatever I agree with you. It's whatever you're good at playing.
Oh, okay. That's not what I was going to say. I was going to say right now the meta is multi-wound trooper units.
Oh, yeah. I take back I stand by what I said. Whatever you're good at playing.
All right, then. That's what I think. I see so many dewbacks, I see so many Wookiees, I see so many Magna Guard, and the only reason that they're good is because they don't... One bad dice roll doesn't degrade the unit like it does for Shores or Storms or Mandos, because they are multi-wound.
Agreed. It's actually a really good point.
Especially with like Vader. It's also like
Well, because it's suddenly force choke is just not good because you're like, I actually had this conversation yesterday with somebody who was like, how do I make this? Oh, it was the guy that beat me with Palpatine. Vader was Ethan. And he's like, well, how do we make this list better? I'm like, I don't know. You drop force choke. And he didn't want to drop force choke because, he was hesitant to. But the problem was every time he force choked stuff, he was force choking Wookiees. That doesn't feel good. It takes 3 turns of force choking to kill a Wookiee model. That's a feels bad. Now, he made the argument that, well, you can finish off the Wookiee model. Like, that's true.
But that's a very fringe.
That's a very fringe thing, and I even looked at him and I was like, you didn't do that once. You kept force choking like models that had 1 wound on them or no wounds on them because that's all you could do. I think you're right. Like, that shoves out a lot of stuff. Also, I guess that's why gun lines and stuff probably aren't around as much because, like,
you start losing attack dice at hurt.
You take
also, like, we are seeing, especially at LVO, there were so many force users, which again are basically just multi-wound trooper units. In fact, they are.
Yeah, they are. Well,
all of them.
That also goes back to the whole thing of, like, why are droids good right now? Because their core troopers are 8 health.
Even 7 health.
Even 7. And 7 is still, like...
They're throwing dice, and they have wounds.
Yeah, it's 1 more than anybody else can do, just natively.
The more D8s you throw in this game, the happier you are.
Yeah.
The less D6s, the happier you are.
It's very true. Hopefully more D8s. I still stand by what I said, but I think you're right. Like, the dual wound thing is very real. I just don't know if I want it to change back to single wound meta. Because single wound meta, I think we just go back to snipers.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And I don't like
or
that.
Maybe we go back to armor.
I guess that's the natural progression, right? Multi-wound, like 2 or 3 wound units. Then you move up to something that's like, 9 or 10 wounds each with armor? Maybe you go back to armor?
A saber tank.
A saber tank that can dodge 10 times. Well, it's like 5 or 6 times.
But even then, like, people were figuring that out day 3 of LVO. They're like, oh, this is how you take care of it. Like, you take out all the support stuff and ignore the tank.
You get the impact on the side because you can't dodge the impact crits.
No, you go after, like, the core troopers because then they can't play the objectives.
Yeah. Well,
like,
there was a couple of times where they just killed the tank and it was like, okay, good game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, if you lose the tank in that list at all, you're like, well, I have no more teeth.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I think right now the meta is multi-wound troopers, regardless of what it is, whether it be commanders, operatives, or special forces. But I don't think it warrants a response from AMG.
No, and that's what I think the big thing for me is like, you already said it and I've already said it, this is like the healthiest the game's ever been, and I'm hesitant for it to change and swing left or right. Because say what you will about what's at top is not nearly as bad as what has been on top before. And even then, you can still kick you can still kick whoever's on top's ass. You really can. Those droid players, if they're winning, I'll be honest, they probably deserve it because droids are super hard to play sometimes. And they're not easy to learn. But also at the same time, I have lost so many games as droids. Even with the Magnas and the droid spiders. It can be very difficult sometimes. Just make a move. That's the thing. Make them move. That list can't play interactive stuff. It wants to play very much a sit back and do nothing kind of game.
Honestly, right now, if I had to pick something to be like, I want this for Legion, I want another Vital Assets.
Thank you. Yes. Absolutely.
Like, rather than, like, changing, like, nerfing or buffing or anything, like, things that are out, it's like, no, I want another Vital Assets. Like, give me more command cards, or not command cards, give me more for the battle deck.
Yeah, I mean, look what Vital Assets did to things like Jedi and vehicles. Because we had super interactive stuff, and we had super vehicle-based stuff.
I'm super glad for Vital Assets, because if we didn't have that, we would only have 5 command cards, 5 of each thing. For, like, there'd be 5 deployments, 5... Oh, that'd be a boring game.
Oh, man. Well, especially with being able to vote to 4, getting more is just so nice.
And, like, I take out this one card. Yeah, putting out another Vital Assets would probably actually be the best thing, because of everything to shake things up, that would shake things up the most. More than a new faction, more than an RRG update, more than nerfs, more than buffs, more than new units. Like, new how you play. Because think about, like, Bombing Run. Like when that came out, like the world lost its mind with the 13-act staff list. That was the funniest thing to watch. We were in here laughing so hard.
Well, because it's first of all, it's a fun list, but that list only really works on that and maybe Breakthrough. But man, there's like such a specific order of you get this and you get that, and it works. And I would love that for more lists. Like I think, I'll be honest, what I really want, I don't even want that many more objectives and stuff. I think if we got just one more objective, one more deployment, and one more condition, that would round it up to 9 of each. I think that alone is enough to change the game for like another year and a half, even before Shadow Collective. And low-key, I think Shadow Collective will come with side objectives for itself. It's something that a lot of games do, and Legion doesn't really have it a ton. You've got Secret Mission, and you've got Bounty. It has those two things. I don't really want a ton of secondary objectives. I think it pulls away from the core of what Legion is.
Especially because, like, how much of a problem was R2 for how long?
And he had to get how many nerfs? And Bounty Hunters didn't get nerfs just because theirs is really hard to pull off and really
They're
risky.
Getting buffs here.
They're getting buffs. Like, I think if you go too far with secondaries, Legion stops being Legion and starts just becoming, like...
40k.
Yeah, it starts becoming where there's less about interacting with your opponent and more of like, well, I just need to do my own thing and that's how I'll win. I don't want that. Especially, like... If you go to an MOV tournament, like that's just going to suck to have to calculate. If suddenly you're getting way more victory points off of, like R2 is already a problem. Let's not add more. But I have this inkling of a feeling that we're going to get that with Shadow Collective, and I don't know how to feel about it. That's just me. I could just be worrying about nothing, but Shadow Collective just seems like the kind of faction that would mostly play to secondaries that are unique to them.
Yeah, I can see that. I wouldn't mind Shadow Collective coming out with the new, like, battle deck stuff. Yeah, no, I wouldn't, because then that would make you have to buy that box.
Hey, I play just Rebels. I'm buying Shadow Collective.
Because I have to get the command card. Oh, yeah, that would be
I
bad.
wouldn't mind if they released the objective pack at the same time.
Oh, yeah, just like as a standalone pack.
Yeah, just a standalone pack, because they don't have to do much. Like
it's just like the upgrade pack that they have out with, like, impact grenades and grappling hooks and all the other generic upgrade stuff.
Perfect. You can get burst of speed in there. Sounds good.
Yeah, and here's a couple extra cards.
I would be all over that.
I just want new battle cards. That's what I want more than anything.
I agree. Well, Josh, this has been a good one. We have so much to talk about every time we get together.
We'll do this again tomorrow night or Friday, something. Like, we'll just come in and be like, hey, how you doing? And then, like, 3 hours later, we'll be like, okay, it's time to go. And another thing, I want this for the game. And then we'll be here another 20 minutes.
The thing is, this is what keeps me up past my bedtime. And I absolutely love it. Like, I am A-okay with it.
This is how I get Taco Bell. I'm like, it's too late to go
That's
cook
the
anything.
thing.
It's like, let's go get tacos.
Even most of the time, I'm like, I can do ramen, but I'm like, no, I guess we're going through the drive-thru.
Holy crap, yep. Taco again tonight.
Well, Josh, on that note, what are you getting from Taco Bell?
I am a personal fan of the Supreme soft tacos. Because you get it's just a normal soft taco, but then you also get the sour cream in there too. That gets really good. I also like the beefy 5-layer burritos.
I do like that.
It's just because they took away the quesarito. That was my favorite thing. I love that thing so much. Oh, the cheesy gordita crunch is there too. Maybe I should stop going to Taco Bell. What's your Taco Bell go-to?
Crunchwrap Supreme. Good night, everybody.